Hello, welcome to Focus on Fantasy Romance, episode number 54, podcast where we discuss the book genre industry and our geeky lives. I'm your host, Elle Klaus.
I'm A.R. DeClerc.
I'm Paulina Wood.
Electra Gatus.
And Ishabelle is waving. And today we have Melisse Aires.
Hi.
Why don't you start by giving us a little bit of an introduction to what Melisse Aires writes?
I mostly write science fiction romance. I have a series, Diaspora Worlds. It's 4 books, and I have a short story in that series. Eventually, I'll have more books in that series, but not yet. I decided to write some fantasy, and so I started that recently. Actually, I have written fantasy for a long time. I just haven't published any. And so I'm gearing up to publish a series. This short story that is a novella that I have coming out is in that world. I've been writing since the early 2000s. I started out in Buffy fan fiction and later went to publishing with a lot of the small online digital romance publishers, the erotic publishers. They're all closed now. And around 2012, I went into self-publishing. I think I have 1 book still with Kensington, but as soon as I get around to going to the post office, I'll request my rights back. So that's kind of my intro.
So you said that you're getting into releasing fantasy romance, and I assume that your first book in this endeavor is Orc in Winter. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Can you tell us a little bit about the book?
Well, Orc in Winter is set in a fantasy world. The series is called Realms of Glister, and it's a large, like a continent full of countries. And some of the countries have lots of magic and some don't have any. And this story is set mostly in a rural setting. The orc was poisoned and is sent to live in a cottage to recover. They haven't found the assassin. And they decide to travel north to a safer place. The little country is in the middle of a civil war. And they get in all kinds of adventures and fall in love and end up in the orcs' homeland, which is called Hob. And I enjoyed writing it. I was just exploring the world. I have another book already published many years ago set in that world. It was kind of the first. It's called Fornication. And it's just a short story that I published in an anthology long, long ago. It now can be purchased like for 99 cents. But so the fantasy world's been on my mind for a long time. And I decided, what the heck, I'll just start playing with it and see where it goes.
So the hero in this story is the orc, I assume?
Yes, he is.
What's his name?
His name is Sherrow. Sherrow.
And Cheryl's love interest, is she an orc or is she human?
He's actually, in my world, orcs can be made kind of like werewolves through a bite. So he was human as a child, and he's actually the cousin of the current queen of the country they start out in. And he was given to soldiers as a payment for a debt and turned into an orc by bite. Lived in the orc world then until his adult years, and then he became a guard for the queen, and that's where he ran into an assassin who killed all the orcs. He's the only one that's still alive. So he's an orc, but he has a lot of human characteristics, and really the humans and the orcs are not all that different. In my world, they might look different. But
So have you ever read a book called Ogre by Piers Anthony?
I'm sorry?
Have you ever read a book called Ogre by Piers Anthony?
No, I haven't.
So
I
it's
might
part of
have,
his,
because I've read a lot of Piers Anthony's Xanth series.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's part of the Xanth series, and I don't remember. It's been a long time since I've read it, but it's basically a romance in his fantasy setting about an ogre who can turn human.
Uh-huh.
Like he's half ogre, so he can turn human, and he falls in love with like a pixie type of character. So I really love that book.
Uh-huh. I really loved the series. I
Yeah.
still have one of those.
So I don't know. I'm getting those vibes for Orc and Winter. So I'm really interested in Orc and Winter. But I wanted to talk a little bit about your covers. I noticed you've recovered some of your sci-fi.
A what?
Put new covers on your sci-fi.
Oh, I did. Well,
yeah,
that's kind of how I relax. I make covers.
Okay.
It's just going to happen. And once I make
that's
one,
fine.
then I have to make more because they have to match. And then, yeah.
Right. Do you find that the man chest on the cover helps with sales?
Honestly, with science fiction romance, I do. I have tried the clinch covers, and I've tried the bare-chested man covers. I don't like headless testicles, but I have found that my sales are better. There's just no way around it. My sales are better with the bare chest man, and that's just the nature of the genre.
I guess. And Orc and Winter has a very nice chesty man on it. So
yeah, he was kind of hard to put onto a cover because the stock photo, he's standing in front of gym equipment, and there was lots of fiddly erasing he had to do. But now he's, a spaceman.
I think they turned out nice. That was all of my questions, though. So Amy, take it away.
So I know you said that you have magic in your fantasy series. So let's talk about your magical system. Do you create a magical system? Do you leave it up to the reader's imagination and say, well, I can do whatever I want because it's magic? Or are there strict set rules for magic in your worlds?
My magical system, it involves nature magic in these books. And that's why some of the countries don't have magic, just between you and I. They've lost their magic either due to their natural practices. They've ruined a lot of land, or they've ruined a lot of customs that the people followed for years that kept nature happy, basically. And so some places have no magic left, and other places, like where the orc come from, have a lot of magic. And I think there's a lot of respect for nature, respect for the land in their magic.
Do you write purposefully with like an ecological message, like take care of your world or you're going to lose it? Or is that a theme that just kind of flows and it just happens?
I think it just kind of happens because that's maybe something that I believe in. So it's going to like peer through, but I'm not consciously trying to make like a preachy take care of the world, or, it won't take care of you book. But I think it's just kind of in the background there. I'm not trying to write an issue book, really. I'm trying to write a romance, but stuff comes up.
So tell us what's on your Kindle to be read list right now.
What I'm reading right now, let me see. I have, let me go look at my library. Well, sad to say, I have a lot of Harry Potter fanfic because it's free. And sometimes I just don't want to work very hard when I read. I just want to read. But let me go to my Kindle and see what I have. Library. Well, I have some Christmas books. I just added a couple of Christmas romances. And God, why none of my electronics are working today, I swear. And Dun, dun, dun. I have some science fiction. I have science fiction romance, and I have some science fiction, regular science fiction. Let me get. Actually, my phone has more stuff on it because I read during lunch at work. And when I read at work, I always read on my phone. It's just easier.
Right. So if you had to say who's your favorite author publishing right now, who would you say?
I like Carol Vanetta a lot. I also am one of her beta readers, so
We love her too. She was one of our excellent guests.
I do really like her books. So I always get excited when she has a new one for me to beta read. Let's see, who else am I enjoying? You know, I read a lot of historical books. So I have, what's her name? Stephanie Lawrence, Loretta Chase, Julia Quinn. And I know it seems really weird, but there's a lot of world building that goes into historical romances. And because they're not at all like real history really was.
Right.
So I read a lot of those. I try to find fantasy romance, but a lot of what I find is actually young adult fairy tale type romance.
Yeah, we know.
A book about Cinderella on here. And it's not that I don't like it. It's just that I don't know. It's not
Real
exactly my
sci-fi
genre.
fantasy romance is hard to come across.
I like it a little bit hotter, but I don't like the I'm being banged by the centaurs kind of hot. I want the plot too. So it's hard to find the balance.
Picky.
Yeah.
So who is inspiring your fantasy romance? Is there a series or something in the past that you've seen on TV, read, heard, or there's just not out there, so you're going to write it yourself?
Well, it's really two things. One, as a child, I lived in Narnia. I read those books every year. My father traveled in Canada, and he brought me the paperbacks before they were available here in the U.S. And so Narnia was a big influence. Also, Middle-earth books, they were a real big influence. And those are all books that I read in childhood. And then as I got older, I read a lot of Terry Pratchett, a lot of the Piers Anthony, the Xantha books were an auto-buy for me, Terry Brooks. And then I quit reading a lot of fantasy and started reading a lot more romance. And when I came back to fantasy, a lot of what I found was more war and swords and
Politics.
And the Barbarian, which I read as a child too. But it just didn't hold my interest as much, I guess. And then I went into science fiction romance and stayed there for a long time. I also did some paranormal romance, so I haven't really seen anything that combines the kind of world building I liked, like in Narnia and Middle-earth, with a hotter romance that was really a romance, not it's a romance for this book and maybe for the next book too, kind of a continuation kind of series. So I thought I'd just start writing and see where I came up with. And this short story was just my first foray. I actually have a 4-book series planned, and I've just barely started on that, but it takes me a long time to plan something, so I'm not a fast writer.
Those were my questions. Paulina, I think it's your turn.
Yay! My questions are, I guess, more towards the reader standpoint, maybe. I don't know. Anyways, so where do you find that you can actually write better? Like, do you go to coffee shops? Do you write out in the park?
No, I'm one of your true introverts. The only place I really like to be is at home. And I go to work. I have a day job. I go to work. I work in a cubicle. I work with spreadsheets and numbers. I'm accounts receivable for a clinic. And so I sit in there and type, and then I go to lunch, and I'll socialize at lunch. Mostly I'll read a book, and and then I'll go home, and I will sit on the love seat in my living room, and I have my laptop and my Chromebook and my e-readers and my phone, and I'll sit there and then I'll type. If I really feel like I'm being disturbed, which is rare, I'll put on headphones or earphones, and I'll play some kind of instrumental music. But I never ever go to a coffee shop or a library or anything like ever. I'd have to put on underwear and take off my sweats.
Yeah, I know, right? Ugh.
So yeah, no.
Well, in that case, since you're kind of introvert, how do you find where do you do most of your interaction with readers?
Most of my interaction really comes on the science fiction romance group, which I was at a box set with a bunch of other authors 3 years ago, and we decided, we wanted to hang out, and the box set did well, and everybody was really reasonable. They were easy to work with. And so I started the science fiction romance group. There's already the science fiction romance brigade for authors, and so we started the group for readers and fans, and just goofier stuff. And it's been a lot of fun. And honestly, if I'm going to buy a book, 99% of the time I found it there on the Sunday Share or the freebie thread. I'll be reading through it. It's like, oh, she's got another Anna Hackett. She's always coming out with new books. She's a pretty prolific. I'll be like, oh, she's got a new one, and then I'll go get it. And so that's where I keep up with stuff and where I chat with readers. Really, other than Facebook, I've tried going to cons in Fort Collins, which is 5 hours south of here. That's just not my readership. I did a book signing too. No. Kids in their 20s. I have children my own that age, and it's not my readership. So it's always a challenge finding. Sometimes I'll get emails from readers, and that's always thrilling. Sometimes I'll get email and I think it's from a reader, but it turns out to be from somebody who wants me to buy their promo.
Oh, don't you just love those unsolicited promos?
Yes. No, I don't want to buy your expensive promo. So, yeah.
So what is your favorite, like the interaction that stands out most in your mind that you had with a reader, with a fan?
I think some of my favorite times were when we've done internet or book parties online, even the Facebook parties that we used to do. But a lot of them that I've been to are too hectic. They're like 15 minutes and you're gone. And the ones that I enjoyed were the ones that were more like spread out over a whole weekend, and people had a longer amount of time, maybe a half hour or more. And then afterwards, people would still be making comments on your posts, and you could go back to them even 6, 7, 8 hours later and continue the conversation. And I liked those a lot. And I don't see a lot of those anymore. I see takeovers that are like really, really, really rushed, like 15 minutes. And I really liked the longer ones that I've been involved in.
Do you think they're a thing of the past, or do you think one point at one time they're going to come back?
I'm hoping it'll come back, but I think everything's in turmoil right now. I think so many, all of the small publishers, well, not all of them, but almost all the small publishers that I was familiar with, say 2007, 2008, 2009. They're all gone now. Even big ones that had 2,000 writers like Alora's Cave that all had backlists. So Alora's Cave, Samhain, they both closed. And that was hundreds of authors with backlists that have been writing since 2005, you know. And so they're all out there on Amazon now, self-publishing, getting their backlists up. And I think, you know, if you wanted to be a cover artist or a editor or a formatter,
right now is the best time to do it.
I think they're the people that are making money right now. I think, I don't know when it's going to change. And that's kind of why I decided to do the fantasy romance series, because it might not, I'm just really pretty sure it's not going to sell very much. And it's kind of like, well, the only way I'm going to sell anything much is writing sexy cyborgs and then spending hundreds of dollars a month promo. And I don't want to do either of those things right now. So I'm just going to go back to my fantasy world and write about people falling in love and fawns and centaurs and flying horses and
So more to market.
You know, make myself happy for a little while.
That's true, because I know a lot of people, a lot of authors are starting to go more to market now, which
yeah,
you have to do what you got to do, you know.
Right.
But yeah, like you said though, it'll settle down. It'll settle down. It's always, there's always waves.
And I have a day job. I don't depend on my writing for my income, so I don't feel like I have to push myself. And my creative juices don't work that way. As soon as I start feeling pressured, nothing works. It's like I can't think of anything to write, or what I write is stupid, or no.
I'm laughing because I get my best ideas when I'm at work. I literally I'm redoing my gargoyle world. And everything I did, I'm doing at work in between talking to people and serving drinks. So they're getting this. I'm like, right? I'm like, no, that doesn't. Oh, hi. What can I get for you? Okay. And I'm mumbling to myself, and this guest looks at me and goes, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, "Don't worry about it." I'm in my head. So I'm good under pressure. I'm not good when I have time.
Oh yeah, I kind of pressure myself a little bit. I'll buy my editing ahead of time, and
that'll make you pressure.
I have an editing spot in the spring, but I don't have a set date. It could be anywhere between March and June. And then I have another editing spot purchased in October. So, but those could be anything. I could do 2 short stories. I could do 2 novellas. I could do 2 novels. You know, I could mix it up. The length isn't part of it. So,
it's just that you have a space, so now you have to do something to put into that space.
Yeah,
that's actually smart.
Yeah, so that way I'll at least get a couple of things out, but they might not be very long. I haven't really felt like writing anything long, and I started out as a short story writer, so it's I can't write short stories. I tried. I did. I like short stories. They're like jewels, you know. And I like to read them too, but we'll see. I might try to do something longer and make some money. I do make money, but not like I did in 2012, 2013. Yeah, we just got to let it settle down. That's what I keep telling myself. And when people ask, I'm like, because like you said, all the things it's rocky right now. It's going to settle down. Yeah. We're going to have some fall out the boat, some climb into the boat, and it'll even out. Well, when I published my first science fiction romance, self-published it, it had been with a crazy publisher, and I got the rights back, and then I self-published it. It probably published with 30 or 40 other books that month. Okay, and I made gobs of money on that little book. And that's like every hour now. And it was like, I made in the first 4 days it was up, I made like $600. And I just went to check by accident, really. And I was like, oh my gosh, it made money. Oh God, they're loading, what is it, like 35, 40? I mean, one of ours just loaded up books today. I'm like, I know, it was so shocking. And I made really good money on that book and the second book in my series in 2012, 2013, 2014. And then
Right
after
before the
it just
bubble.
started to dry up, more people got into both the genre and I think just self-publishing, period. And I haven't made that much money since then. And I did think about quitting and going full time, like in 2013. I'm
Glad
really
you did.
glad I didn't. 'Cause I have a really good paying but boring job with spreadsheets and numbers, and but but it's very secure, which writing is not.
Not right now, no. Unless you're like Sharon Kenyon or someone where they pay
Right.
you goobers of money before you even put the book out.
Right. And even some of those people that came on like blockbusters, like 3-4 years ago, and had millions of dollars of 99-cent books and stuff, it's not like that for them now either. And a lot of them are talking about, well, I'm going to have to get a day job. Like, I'm sorry, but yeah.
I was thinking of the person who wrote that gray book, whatever.
Oh, yeah, Shades of Grey, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it busted, came out strong, but then it kind of just got buried.
I hope she got good money on her film deals. Because
Yeah,
I think it was.
I don't think she's having a problem with money.
Yeah.
she's not, but I'm saying like it's.
And
if-
another one who's doing really good still, even
You see
despite the change, is Lauren Donor with her science fiction series, her animal guys. I can't remember what it's called. New Species.
like all
Yeah.
the rest of them. I'm just saying, like you see even in the people who are successful, you kind of see the fluctuation.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, wait, I don't even have 1% of those readerships, and you're like, I think I'll keep my day job for now. It's not so bad to serve drinks to drunkards, which I have to go do tonight. Electra, your turn.
All right.
Let's see.
So I'm just going to do some probably with a little bit more personal questions. Are you a Black Friday shopper?
Am I a what?
Black Friday shopper.
No, I am not. No, you know what I did today? I did stuff on the computer, and I wrote a little bit. I read a little bit, ate some leftovers. That's really all I did.
I wish I could say the same. No. So as far as writing goes, I take it with you working with spreadsheets and being an introvert, you're more of a plotter than, a pantser?
Actually, I have been both. And a lot of short stories are pantsed because they're done like in a 3-act, your beginning, your middle, your end, and they're easy. A long series, like the one I'm attempting to write, the fantasy series, it's going to take a little more plotting because you're going to have things in the first and second book that are relevant in the second and third book, and stuff like that. But and I do like spreadsheets. That's my day job, spreadsheets, Excel. That's what I do. And I do that, but a lot of times I will pants the first third of the book. And after that, see where I want to take it to get to the end I know I want to have. And I don't really have a problem with characters taking me one way or another. You have a setup and you know what your ending's going to be. Because I write romance, I know I'm going to have so-and-so and so-and-so together. And then it's just a matter of figuring it out after that. So that's kind of how it works for me. I've thought about just pantsing, but in the past I have gone into like dead ends, and then you had to do a lot of rewriting, and I hate doing that. I don't like throwing away stuff that I've written. So I'd rather not have to cut. Oh, and I wanted to mention that I did start a group called Romancing the Shire. And it's not a very active, but it's a fantasy romance group. And, if anybody has some good ideas of ideas they want to do with it, author days or different things, I'm open to suggestions. You can PM me on Facebook, and I wouldn't mind if it was more active. Like the science fiction romance group is really, really active, and poor little Romancing the Shire. It's like he's.
Is this for readers or writers?
Yeah. It's for, I was going to have it for readers. Mainly, I was just trying to find books to read. It's like science fiction romance. I go on there and there's a million books that I can check out. And I go to Amazon and I search fantasy romance, and it's shifters, dragons in our world, not in a fantasy world, urban fantasy, or like young adult fairy tales. And
so what kind of romances do you want to see more in the genre then? Because like you said, there's a lot of shifters and there's a lot of dragons. So is there something that you'd like to see a little bit more in that industry?
I like more human characters. Shifters are all right. I've even tried my hand at shifters myself, but I would like to see things that are not set in our common world. I like portal kind of stuff, or an entire fantasy world. Something different than, dragon shifters in Los Angeles. I just, it just doesn't get me there. It's not for me. I kind of like there are some people doing some shifters in space now. Some of that's pretty interesting.
Space shifters. I love space shifters. I think S.E. Smith is one of my favorites who she does a really great job in the whole space shifters category, I think. One of my favorites.
Yeah. So that's mostly I'm looking at fantasy in fantasy settings. Not urban fantasies. I've enjoyed a lot of those, but I'd really like to see something different. So thought I'd try writing one.
No, I like the whole alternative dimensions as far as worlds go. That's in fantasy. I think that's my favorite. Is like you said, you get sucked through the portal, and next thing you know, they're in this completely different world, but it's still kind of set in this similar time. So yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing that a little bit too.
Yeah. That is kind of what I'm going for with my series. Has portal magic in it. They can use it between places in their world, and in my next book they're going to use it from our world. I have kids that came from a broken home. Their mom lives on Earth. Their dad lived in the fantasy world, and they've been shuffled between the two all their lives, and now they're adults and they've chosen to go back to the fantasy world. And so that's kind of where that's going. And that is kind of like through the wardrobe. Only instead of the wardrobe, they use a ritual. They did a little Christmas or winter solstice kind of wish ritual, and it took them there. So, yeah. Well,
you'll definitely have to keep us posted on that. So I think that's all the questions I have.
Okay.
Yeah, when I started publishing, I also write secondary fantasy romance, and my publisher was like, "So, what are your books like?" And I'm like, it's like Tolkien with love and stuff. And they're like, "Well, we can't really market that. So you've got werewolves in your book, so we're going to stick you with werewolf shifters." I'm like, it's not Earth. I mean, it's Irish inspired castles and lore, but it's not Earth.
I like that. That's kind of what I'm kind of trying to go for.
Yeah, so it's really hard to market. Like, fantasy romance is niche-y as you can get. But if you are looking for recommendations, I recommend Grace Draven.
Oh, sure. I've read some of hers.
Yeah. I think Jeffy Kennedy is is Secondary World, although I have not read anything of hers. I just follow her on Facebook. But yeah,
Right.
Focus on Fantasy Romances, trying to highlight Secondary World fantasy romances. So you are in the right spot.
Oh, well, that's good. And I think,
So,
a lot of people maybe don't understand the difference between paranormal and fantasy and things like that. Maybe I'll start doing some more stuff on my blog. I used to be quite a blogger, and then I dropped off, but maybe
yeah,
I'll
I think
do it.
blogging is going to have a renaissance because everyone started doing newsletters. So now everyone's inbox is getting inundated with newsletters.
Yeah.
So people are unsubscribing. So I think blogging is going to see a kind of a renaissance, if you will. So that's a good idea. So speaking of blogging, why don't you tell everybody where we can find you and your books?
Okay. Well, mostly you can find me on Facebook, Melisse Aires. Science fiction romance group. I'm hanging out there a lot, romancing the Shire. I do check in there, but it's not very active, but I would be more active. I have my blog on Blogspot, which is melisseaires.blogspot.com. I also have a website, melisseairesbooks.com. I find I have a newsletter, but it bores me so much. And I hate to say it, but I'm really irritated with all the newsletters in my inbox, and I tend not to open them, and I apologize if I'm on your list and I'm not opening your email. It's never going to happen. so sorry.
Yep. No, you're fine. I think you're suffering from what everyone else does.
Yeah, I will try to read your blog if you post something where I can find it, like on Facebook. And that's really where I hang out. I have a Twitter account, but I hardly ever use it. It moves too fast, and and I have so many different things going on. It'll be one political post and one romance post and some weird advertisement and no. So I don't do Twitter very much.
I don't do Twitter much either. So we do have a giveaway for our listeners. We have an ebook copy of Orc in Winter. What is the actual release date of Orc in Winter?
It's actually tomorrow. Yeah, it releases tomorrow. I just decided to do it after Thanksgiving, and it's a winter story, so it'll go through the winter. And it has a really pretty cover. I was really happy with how the cover turned out. If you like orchid and purple, if you hate those colors, then you won't like it. But
if you don't like purple, don't listen to this podcast. Just saying.
Well, people are telling me that purple is not a good seller for books, for romance books, but I'm seeing a lot of pink and purple lately. So I'm kind of thinking that's old news. So I went with purple and orchid, and I was very happy with it. So, and I will give away a copy. Let's see, I guess I'm going to put up a blog post tomorrow, but how do you guys pick do you guys pick somebody?
Yep.
Is that how it works?
Yep. So if you want to be entered to win a chance for this ebook, you do have to leave a comment on this. What we do is we take the YouTube video, post it on a blog post at focusonfantasyromance.wordpress.com. Excuse me. So ask Melisse a question about her book or her writing or almost anything, and that will enter you in a chance to win a copy of Orc in Winter. We leave it open for 30 days, so it will be December 25th, well, Christmas, when we close.
Okay.
And then we'll let you know.
Okay. That sounds
great.
Really good. Well, cool. And I'm glad I can hear better now. And
well, thank you for joining us. You are welcome. If you like the podcast, please like, comment, and share. This has been episode number 54. Good night.
Good night.